So to introduce Commons in a Box openLab, I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on the project. It's a free open source software that enables anyone in the whole world now to create a Commons for open learning. And what does that mean? We're going to talk about that. So just some more background. The Commons in a Box project was something, actually, if you were in the previous session, which was everybody. So the Commons that Laurie was talking about, they launched in 2009, and then in 2012, with funding from the Mellon Foundation, they created Commons in a Box, which basically packaged up the CUNY Academic Commons, the network for the whole of CUNY, as Laurie was talking about, and it put it in a box so that anybody can kind of unpack it and install it and create their own version of the CUNY Academic Commons. So it's in use by hundreds of groups and organizations around the world. This is just a few examples. And then meanwhile, over at City Tech, we were creating something that we called the openLab. It was part of a major grant from the US Department of Education. So I'm sorry, just losing my place here. So everybody at the college can use it. It's an open platform for teaching, learning, and collaboration that everybody at City Tech can use. Students, faculty, and staff. Like the Commons, it's built using WordPress and BuddyPress, and it's been enormously successful at City Tech. As you can see, we've got 28,000 members, 28,000 people in the community have used it so far. It's used by hundreds of courses each semester, projects, clubs, student clubs, portfolios of all kinds. So to unpack its name, why open and why lab? Unlike closed online teaching systems, the openLab allows everyone at the college to share their work with one another in the world. And like a lab, it provides a place where faculty and students and staff can all get together, work together, and experiment and innovate. So Commons in a Box openLab brings the two projects together. With funding from the NEH, we built a new version of Commons in a Box that abstracts in the same way as the original one did. It abstracts the features and functionality of the openLab, puts it in a box, and then other people can install it anywhere in the world. And now Jenna is going to show you a little bit about how it works.
This way?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
My name is Jenna Spivak. I'm co-director on the openLab, and I also worked on the design development of Commons in a Box openLab. And I'm going to take you through some of the features and functionality, starting with the home page. This offers a dynamic view of the site activity, ability to spotlight member work and communicate with members via the slider. The architecture of the site, the homepage gives this window into what's happening on the openLab, and from here members can browse by area or sign in and navigate to their own content. CBox openLab is structured to make the members and groups that are active in the community visible and connected, and each group and member has a home, which in the example here is history of photography, which serves as an informational landing page and with a link to an optional WordPress site. Members of CBox openLab can be set up with different types, which can be filtered in different ways. You can see on the right-hand sidebar. At City Tech, we have students, faculty, staff, and alumni, but you can adjust these to fit your needs. The member profile. Each member has a profile where they can share information about themselves. It also shows their activity, provides access to their portfolio if they've created one on the openLab or externally. Thank you. Courses. Members can create different types of groups, which can be customized and categorized again in different ways. Here we're looking at the courses directory page. The sidebar offers filtering options similar to members, which can be customized again by the admin. The group home, so each group has a home which provides access to collaboration tools such as discussion, files, shared calendars, and document editing. And each group can optionally have an associated WordPress site based on a standard template to promote good site organization. Group creation follows a simple step-by-step process and offers a range of privacy options. In this example, we have courses that can be created from scratch or can be cloned from an existing course, which kind of helps with semester to semester. The openLab administrator can customize the site via user-friendly WordPress dashboard. Here, for instance, you can customize the visual appearance of your openLab, and the available options meet AAA accessibility standards for contrast, so that's already figured out. And lastly, if you want more information about CBOC's openLab features, you can visit cbox.org for full documentation, demo sites, showcases, and support. And I'm going to turn it over to Jody, who's going to talk a little bit about CityTech's openLab.
Great, and I'm going to time myself so that I don't go too long. Okay, remind me, how am I advancing? This one. Okay, great. So if you were here before, you heard a lot about how the Commons is a platform for teaching, among many other things. So I want to walk through in the different categories that Jenna was talking about: courses, projects, clubs, portfolios, and just going to talk a little bit about how we use it at the at CityTech, how the openLab becomes a community space for our college and broadcasts the work out for anyone else who wants to look at it or comment on it. So just to say, courses, we know what happens when you run a course. I think Laura gave some great examples of that. I want to talk a little bit about ways that it can be more flexible than just, you have this one course space. So here's an example of an interdisciplinary course. So this is 2 faculty members from 2 different departments teaching one course. There's no, logistical trouble in getting that started. It's just 2 faculty members are both the administrators for the site, and that leads to a very easy opportunity to teach interdisciplinary courses. Similarly, when we have first-year learning communities, this is 2 separate courses, sometimes 3 courses, therefore 2 or 3 faculty members, and they can all share one space, and they can have work for each course going on the same space using categories and tags, can kind of see the work that they need, that each faculty member needs, but then also brings all of that work into one space together. Because the system is so flexible, courses can then say, we need an extra project space. We want some space to do other work. So here's an example of a first-year learning community focused on as a method and service learning that decided we're going to set up a project so that our first-year comp students and our hospitality management students, or all the same students, can share out the work that they were doing about college skills for first-year students, as well as places to eat and things to see in downtown Brooklyn, and make this a resource not just for their class, but for the college at large, and then beyond that as well. Similarly, a course that in our ComD department, that a typography course, could take the work that students were doing here. In this case, they're designing posters for the Brooklyn Historical Society, and outside of that, they do this work on their course site, but then they can have another project that this is each semester's work on this same project, and grouping that all together as a way for that to live on as a resource. Other kinds of projects that move a little bit further away from courses specifically, internships, coordination of internships, but as well internships, the kind of weblog of writing that a blog can offer. In this case, for students who are working at Walt Disney World for their hospitality management internship. Projects can take a lot of other forms, so we use them a lot for committees, for research projects. Here's one that we on the openLab host and write for, called Open Pedagogy on the openLab, and it's a great resource for faculty at the college to come learn more about what's going on with open pedagogy. We also profile different faculty members in their use of open digital tools, specifically the openLab. What's really great about doing all of that on the openLab is that students, faculty, staff develop skills in the work that they're doing for one thing and can apply it to the work they're doing for something else. So it becomes a great platform for clubs where students have already learned how to use the openLab. Maybe as a writing posts and comments, now they can be the administrator themselves and develop their club. Similarly, their portfolios. So just really quickly, portfolios are a great addition to the openLab because rather than having your the things that you do that you want to highlight in one place and your portfolio in another, they're all together in one place, and you can move things around from the work that you're doing into your portfolio. Portfolios are for students, faculty, staff, alumni. And similarly for the OER project at City Tech, it's also hosted on the openLab, which means that the work that's happening for courses, projects, clubs, etc., is also in the same place as where the OER materials live. And these OER materials could be, for individual courses, like this one is for Africana folklore, but also kind of larger OERs from the library, talking about how to do OERs, how to. We are developing one about using the openLab or using open technologies. And finally, I just want to say a really exciting feature that we have now is, Jenna was talking about cloning a course, is the ability for shared cloning. So I could say, I developed this class, maybe it's an OER. Here, you want to do an OER too? Clone my class. And it'll give me attribution, but it'll also kind of make that process go more smoothly for those coming after. I'm going to turn it over to hear about all the exciting stuff happening at BMCC.
Here, right behind.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Gina Cherry. I'm the director of the Center for Excellence in Teaching, Learning, and Scholarship at BMCC. This is my colleague, Tom Harbison from eLearning. He's an instructional designer there. So we're at the very early stages of implementing openLab at BMCC. As Charlie mentioned, our initiative is led by Chris Stein, who's the department chair of Media Arts and Technology, and it's done in collaboration with CETL's eLearning and the library. And we were able to get started through a Department of Education Title III grant that was obtained by our Media Arts and Technology and Computer Information Systems Department. And so that grant, as part of that grant, they were interested in implementing e-portfolios, career development, and reflective e-portfolios for the students in media arts. But we're also interested in the broader uses at BMCC, and we're starting to explore that. So for the past year or so, we've been working with the folks at City Tech, both to customize the system for our own context and to train our pilot users. And one of the customizations that we did was to connect openLab with our authentication system, because we wanted to make it as easy as possible for our faculty and our students to access the system. We got that going sometime, I think, last semester. And right now we're piloting openLab with a few classes in media arts and technology that Tom's going to talk about.
And I guess at any point we can pull up
the
next slide.
Yeah.
So during the transition into openLab, we've been tying back to faculty development that was pre-existing, already going on campus, that was meeting the needs of the open pedagogy needs of faculty that were identified by Gina and CETL's and Gina Amaral, Open Knowledge Librarian. So for the training and development that's going on with openLab, we're trying to tie back to that. And those include promoting OER, open pedagogy, and the use of student portfolios. And we've done some preliminary work with faculty piloting course sites in the openLab that Gina mentioned. We're now reviewing applications from those across the college, from all departments who have interest in open pedagogy projects for next semester and all of next year. And we plan to guide many of them into the openLab. I'd like to give a few examples of the types of projects that those include. The first being centered around student e-portfolios. Our teacher education department heavily uses Digication and has been using it for a number of years, and we see an opportunity to migrate those portfolios into the openLab so that we're tying the skills that students are developing, make those transferable skills like we just heard about, to also use that as a building block for the academic community and networking that's possible with the openLab. A second area of focus is OER. For example, we have faculty in the speech department who have WordPress sites that are serving as hubs, either for individual courses or across courses, for fellow faculty to share resources with one another. And we see value in moving some of those over into the openLab. And the last category I'll mention are projects that are driven by faculty who are seeking teaching, learning, publishing needs that are not met by Blackboard. So they're looking for an alternative. They want it to be in a more open space. And we have a whole series of sites on the Cuny Commons that are more or less ready to move over to the openLab space. And we're hoping it's going to be easier in some cases for students using their BMCC logins because of that authentication being mentioned, for them to jump right into those conversations. And all those sites, they allow students to create media-rich posts and take advantage of the openness of the platform. So all in all, we're looking forward to the networking and the cross-pollination kind of possibilities that can happen once we take those projects and move them into the space.
Yeah, so we see openLab as an integral part of what we call a culture of open at BMCC, which includes teaching and learning in the open educational resources and supporting student agency in their own learning. And so we are interested in implementing openLab campus-wide, and we're starting to think about some of the challenges that we need to address in order to make that happen. So the two biggest challenges are hosting and support. Right now, we're hosting openLab internally on a server at BMCC, but in the longer run, we need to make sure that we have the server support that will support a large number of users and that will have 24/7 server support, and we don't think that that can happen on campus. So we're starting to explore external hosting, and we're hoping to move to that sometime next year so that we can start to grow the number of users. In terms of support, right now, we're able to support the faculty who are using or planning to use openLab between eLearning, CETLS, and the library. Again, in the longer run, we're hoping that faculty will not only move to a new platform, but will make changes to their pedagogy. And so we're aware that we'll need some more instructional design support. And then the other big piece that we're thinking about is student support, which we haven't quite figured out yet. Are you the next?
Oh,
I'm going to
think so. Yeah, great. So just looking forward, this has been, the title of our talk was Cuny Collaborations. This has been some really great collaborations that we've had with the Grad Center to create the Commons in a Box openLab, and now through this Title III funding, this partnership with BMCC when they're adopting it, and we are providing sort of advice and guidance around that, and also working together to enhance the software. So we're really excited about the possibilities, and we'd love to talk with you. And we wanted to keep some time here for conversation with you about possibilities that you might see at your campuses. There are other ways as well that people can contribute to the project. We've partnered to include in the package some various WordPress plugins that were developed by digital humanities practitioners. It was a digital humanities project. But we've got a lot more to come. We have another partnership with BMCC called Opening Gateways that's around math. And so we've got a great WordPress plugin that we're going to be integrating for a Q&A site that integrates with WebWork. And that's just one example of the possibilities that there are when you're working in the open source space for collaboration. And another thing just to talk about hosting is that we do also have a partnership with Reclaim Hosting, so they can help you get up with a small instance just to try something out, or also work with people on the longer term as well. So now we wanted to turn it over to you and say, did you have any questions for us? Any things that you wanted to talk about, benefits and challenges that we've seen? This theme was from pads to forever. Any questions about sustaining things, how you might use the CBOX openLab at your campus, future collaborations. So any questions? Yes, please.
Thank you for your presentation. I question about using this for OER sharing. So one thing that's happening at my campus is we're starting to create more resources rather than just using them. And something we're starting to think about is how we're going to share those more widely. So I'm wondering if you think that something like this would be useful for that when our courses are pretty likely to stay locked where they are, but still wanting to share the materials.
I think so. we're obviously biased, but yes, we would say so.
And I hear that, like, I'm saying, one of the great things about the OERs being hosted here is that all this other stuff is going on there too. And you're saying if the other stuff isn't going to go on there, and I do think that there's a value in it because of its openness, because it's so readily accessible, and it's a tool that so many people know how to use already. That it would be a really great platform. I mean, I will say Manifold sounds like a really wonderful platform as well.
And the commons too.
Right.
So this is the kind of thing where at CUNY, like if we were doing this presentation somewhere else, they don't have the option of the CUNY Academic Commons. At CUNY people do. So I think it does take a little bit of, I think what we would probably say, it takes a little bit of critical mass. You know, you'll want a bit of critical mass to get a CBOX openLab installation up and running. So you'll want to have a few people probably who are committing to using it in various ways to make it, you know, something that you know, worth investing the time and effort in getting something up and running. I don't think I'm saying anything crazy here, right? Whereas if you know, if there's just you and your friend, maybe then, you know, it's like that's a lot of work to get something up and running, and it may make more sense for smaller groups where situations where there isn't kind of a coherent critical mass where the Commons is obviously a really great option for people CUNY-wide. So, you know.
And I would say that it's also a way of building up the materials to show the need for. So there could be, like what you were talking about, like there's a lot of stuff happening on the Commons already that can then move over onto the BMCC platform. And so I do think that there is a value in one of the advantages of working in a WordPress space is that you can then move it to another WordPress space.
Exactly.
No, thank you, because that's exactly the sort of questions that
Yeah.
we're trying to ask is, okay,
Right.
where would we start? And then
Yeah.
we're growing, and then where would we move?
Right.
Exactly.
And just to say, like, there are other tools, like we didn't get into it in detail, but something like Hypothesis can let you do some of the things that Christina was talking about with social annotation. So, you know, I think that there are ways to kind of do the things that you want to do in multiple places.
Is that familiar? Yes. I wanted to ask one question that touches two parts of the CUNY map. Is there any follow-up to the mapping Brooklyn project that sits in openLab somewhere? It's a wonderful terrain, but it's got a lot of things and a lot of people moving back and forth all at the same time. Because it was something I saw for the first time at I think it's at our CUNY IT conference last year. And because I have people who like to brainstorm with me at the graduate school of journalism, I was wondering if other people who are part of the openLab have been in talks with Barbara Gray and her staff at since they're librarians, researchers inside the graduate school of journalism. I was wondering if there was dialogue going back and forth between other people in the openLab, other campuses, and the graduate school of journalism. And is there someone who flies the flag for openLab who's at LaGuardia today, since La CUNY is occurring the same day as the Bronx and Tech Showcase? It would be so lovely if CUNY people would talk to CUNY people, so we could have La CUNY on the 3rd and maybe and Tech on the 10th.
No, that's Q.
Yes, Q is on the 10th. So, and I already signed up. So.
I was just saying.
We have to do different days, not the same day.
I was
Just a
just saying,
suggestion.
one of the really great things about it being an open platform is that although for the openLab specifically, you need to have a CityCheck email address for the CityCheck openLab specifically. You need to have a CityCheck email address in order to have an account. By and large, commenting is open in general to everyone, so there's no reason why folks from the School of Journalism couldn't comment on and reach out that way to the folks who are running the Mapping Brooklyn project. And I encourage that. I think that's one of the really valuable things about working in the open isn't just that people can see it, but that they can get involved in it and comment back and start other projects. And there's no reason why, that project couldn't have a larger life beyond that, whether it be, moving to the academic commons in order to have to bring in other campuses and whatnot, or think about other ways to make that happen.
One quick question. When you're having comments, like obviously public comments and people are going to be expressing themselves, is there a mediator involved somewhere? Because that could be kind of overwhelming after a while if there's too many responses to different things. Is there a mediator at all?
I haven't ever seen that. Too many responses.
Yeah. Okay. I was just wondering if you had anything in place right now, because if all of a sudden something's provocative and you have 300 people want to comment on it, there's going to be
built into WordPress. There's a few controls, a few levels that you can choose from to filter that. So it's mostly a workflow issue.
Right. Yeah. But somebody has to be there.
The creator of each site.
Yeah.
That's right.
I think we're out of time. So thank you everyone for joining us today. And we have some
very good.